Everybody, and welcome to another in a series of Sky Switch webinars. I'm Andy Abramson, and we are delighted today to have our good friends from Poly here as they present You Had Me at Remote PCAP, otherwise known as PCAP. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, what's remote PCAP? Well, there's many troubleshooting scenarios, and you actually have needed physical access to a phone or a speakerphone, and the truck roll wasn't really the preferred option, largely because of cost, maybe timing, availability of people, and just scale. So picture this, your customer says, this call sounds terrible. I'm sure all of our resellers out there have heard that at least once in their career, if not many more times. Then a couple phones on your network that your customers operating just aren't registering. Or in the case of what's going on right now with a lot more remote work, a customer just took their office phone to their home office and it's not working. How many times have you heard that? How many times have you lived through that? And how many times have you scratched your head and said, I wish there was a better solution? Well, today we're going to talk all about how Poly has a solution for you. Today's webinar is going to also provide all of you who registered, even if you're not listening, all of you who registered who are SkySwitch resellers, a free, that's right, FREE remote cloud toolkit. Now, Poly created this toolkit in order for things to be made easier for you, and it's going to teach you everything you need to know about running remote packet capture, changing logging levels, pulling logs, checking MOS scores for packet loss, latency, jitter, checking the interface and port status of the devices, and remotely rebooting a Poly device, and even checking and updating the local configuration of the device when someone says, I need someone to change my IP address, it's hard-coded. Well, the Remote Cloud Toolkit does all that. I'm Andy Abramson. I've been moderating these webinars since about January or February this year. We're having a lot of fun, but we're going to have a lot more fun today because we've got a great group of characters. And when I say characters, they certainly are. First, SkySwitch's own VP of support, you know him as Corey Stoker. I'm delighted that Corey's on because Corey's going to be able to answer all the technical questions that certainly I can't. Darren Knapp, Poly's Director of Global ITSP Sales, a good friend of SkySwitch's. Those of you who attended Vectors last year, and no, we're not having Vectors this year because of the pandemic. You all met Darren in the Poly suite. You saw him up on stage. Darren is a good friend of the company's and a good friend in general to all of us. Lee Marlowe. Lee joined Poly just about the time of Vectors. She's a sales manager, and she's your go-to person if you need something from Poly. And we're really lucky to have one more person from Poly who normally plays a big role in the background, but if you really need help, you like to have interfaced with him, he's Skip Maryland, the solutions architect at Poly. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Darren and just say, Darren, why don't you give us some highlights as to what's been going on?
Andy, thanks. Appreciate the intro. And by the way, I think we're going to get Corey to play the part here of wait, which one do you want to play, Corey? I'll pick the one you don't. Yeah. So, you know, what's funny is we're talking about the movie, right? Jerry Maguire, and there's possibly people on this call that have never seen the movie. So there's your homework. So you get the little, you had me at remote PCAP. You got to go watch Jerry Maguire and hear the famous line. And of course there it's, you had me at hello.
Right. But no, I'll be the one saying, show me the PCAP.
show me the PCAP. That's right. That's right. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s.
Darren, I always play the Jerry Maguire part for all my friends helping me get new jobs. So I'll wear the Jerry hat.
All right. You're Jerry. I can't remember the girl's name in the movie.
Renee Zellweger?
Yeah, Renee Zellweger is the actress, but what's her part, her character?
It's been too long.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, well, guys, really appreciate you having me on here, and we're excited to talk about this remote packet capture. But you know, I want to frame this in. This has been a crazy time, right? It's all about this whole work from home insanity that we've been living through. And just kind of as some highlights, things that are going on, right? They're saying right now in the US, 1 out of every 4 workers is working from home today. You just put that into perspective. That's insane. The amount of work days, I'm not sure how they calculate this, but I can do the math. That's more than 2x number of work days being done at home versus in an office. And on the good news is, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't filled up gas but maybe 3 times in the last 6 months. Like I'm not driving anywhere. So I'm saving a ton on gas and maintenance. I don't care about the yellow light anymore, the little check engine light. Like, I barely drive it. What do I care about that? The bad news is though, that means that you're staying in the house and you're probably going bonkers. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so cabin fevered out. I'm ready to get out and do some stuff. I'm jealous because Lee and Skip took vacations to the beach. So what's that all about, guys? I mean, beach vacations. I'm stuck here in the Dallas area. There's no beach anywhere close by. So
if it makes you feel better, we both had hurricanes on our beach trips. I had 2. Skip had 1. Does that make you feel a little better?
That is justice, because like you're out taking this beach trip, something had to go bad. Awesome. But guys, the main thing here that I want to talk about is we at Poly, we see a lot of stuff, right? And you guys have seen a lot of stuff. You're watching the news, right? What's the new normal? Stories like this. I mean, unless you're living in a bubble and you haven't seen these, there's articles everywhere. You're not working from home because your kids are driving you nuts and it's hard to focus. All these different things like how to make the most of, and Amazon's hiring, and how the workplace is changing, all these different articles. And really what we're hearing from our partners and everybody is the landscape really has changed, and that's pretty obvious. Nemerides is one of our analysts that we like to look to, and I thought this was a fascinating study about the whole work from home thing. What they're saying, if you dissect this chart, the little red part, 12.8%, those are companies that say, we're not going to work from home. We're not going to do that. We've got to be in an office. So do the math, guys. Only 13% are saying that after the pandemic's over, they're not going to work from home. The rest are undecided, probably, or yes, we're going to work from home. So that leaves 70+%. Yeah, Andy.
And on that though, 12% represents a large portion of the manufacturing economy. And I think that it's not just taking that in general. It's not all knowledge workers. We're all in the knowledge worker category. Right. We can work from anywhere. We can plug in from anywhere. The Poly team, the SkySwitch team, we're able to, Corey and I both have been remote the whole time we've been working with SkySwitch. And though Corey has an office he could go to, I have a home office and always have had. That 12%, a large portion of it are people in the manufacturing sector or the production sector who have to physically be on site to accomplish their job, a large portion of that. So one of the things we all learn in Stat 101 is how to manipulate statistics. It's really important that when everybody sees these numbers, that they realize that for a large portion of their customer base, if they're not in the production or the distribution end of logistics, because robots haven't advanced far enough yet, unless you're Amazon, those are the people who are not working from home, which is why I coined the phrase, and we talked about on another webinar a few months back, working from anywhere and working from elsewhere. So anywhere is the category, elsewhere is where they are. And today, there's a whole article about the studycation market in, I think it was the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg, I forget who had it. The actually it was Points Guy, studycation, where people are actually taking their kids and going on the road, renting out Winnebagos and all that because they can, because the kids are doing virtual schoolwork. So you're right, your comment about the world changing, that yes, and that probably is over 70%. And the unsure, you split that in half, you're talking close to 80% of the workforce is very comfortable working at home. And that's a big opportunity for Poly, but it's a big problem for resellers who have not worked in a remote environment or had customers work in a remote environment. The good news is when we did a survey at the start of the pandemic, we found out that over 50% of our resellers had customers already working from home, so they were ready to go.
Wow. Yeah, and it's one of those things that if you've worked from home, and now most of us have, it's hard to imagine going back to the commute and going back to that lifestyle. I just on a personal note, I've never been closer to the family. We've had a really special time over the summer, just getting closer with my kids and spending time. We got backyard chickens and we did all sorts of things that we talked about doing for forever, and then finally got to them. I think the main point that I'm trying to make, though, is that it really is going to be hard to unseat work from home. People really do generally like it. It's a big benefit. So even as the pandemic lifts, yeah, we're going to have to continue to deal with and solve the problems that come along with work from home, which is a really kind of a good segue, right? Because if you think about from our perspective, when I talk to everybody, right, the monsters, we've got the huge Ring Centrals and 8x8s, and we've got our Sky Switch community, and we talk to a lot of different partners. These are some of the things that we're hearing from them. I think they're no-brainers, but these are kind of solidifying what you're probably thinking. Number one is, when I work from home, there's all sorts of challenges that I've got to face. And my ease of doing work at home is really critical. And that's something that enterprises have to focus on. One that I hear a lot lately is that cost and liquidity and cash flow are really important for the enterprise. So your customer, right? So the SkySwitch reseller's customer is thinking about, man, how am I going to pay my next bill? How am I going to keep my employees on staff and not lay people off? And so every penny counts. And so really what they're thinking about is, how do I stop big capital expenditures? And the one we're really going to focus on today is unpredictable networks, because as everybody goes from home, guess what? That just unleashes a Pandora's box of things. And what my partners are asking, what your partners are asking is, hey, Polly, can you help? And how can you help us? So we could tackle all this stuff. The main one we're going to focus on today is this unpredictable network. And in parentheses, we've got home, right? Because this is not only a home network issue. Corey, I'm sure that you get bombarded with issues, right? Where customers have a phone or something's not working right, and it's either at the office or at the home office. And then what do you do? What are the troubleshooting tools available? So just in case you missed it, Poly is the combination of Plantronics and Polycom. Two companies merged about 1.5 years ago. And our team, the service providers team, all we do is work on making our partners successful. So how do we make SkySwitch and SkySwitch resellers successful? Because I'll almost never talk to your end customer. The only reason I would talk to your end customer would be is if you picked up the phone and said, Darren, Lee, Skip, can you guys get on with my end customer with me and help me solve this problem? That's the only time we would ever get on a call with your end customer. We only sell when you're successful. So the whole concept with us is, what tools can we put in your hands to make life easier? How we do that really is what you're looking at here is our end-to-end strategy. The obvious ones are the devices. Us for phones and headsets and all those things, right? Polycom, Plantronics. We acquired OBHI, so those of you who know the OBHI brand know that. So we've got the phones and the headsets and the conference phones and the cameras. What you may not know is in the middle, we also have software and services that we provide for our partners. And here's kind of what that looks like, right? All of our cool devices for the individual and for the group. And then in the middle, we've got device management, which is going to be the focus of our talk today. But we also have other stuff like device as a service and also envisioning services. So let's just say you had an enterprise that came to you and said, you know what? We've got 1,000 employees and we have no clue on what headsets we should have and what type of network this or that. We actually have services that'll go in, a paid service that you can mark up and sell to your client, where we actually walk in and help them pick all their headsets and help them decide what the best devices are and how to do their networks and all that kind of stuff. So just throwing that out there in case you didn't already know it. So work from home challenges. Noise distractions, right? My dog just barked. I don't know if my headset cut it out or not, but I've got a big 90-pound bloodhound, and when he barks, it's a force to be reckoned with. So noise and distractions. On the cash flow, it's that, how do we save every dollar that we've got? And then the dreaded network. So on the noise and distractions, what are we doing? We're cutting out sounds of bloodhounds. Or I actually need to do a demo. I need to get Roomba set up where I can actually run Roomba back and forth, and it actually cuts it out. The headset I'm wearing actually cuts out that sound. So distracting noises, the whole, hey, I can't hear you, or I can't hear you, right? Either side of the conversation. So that's where we really excel. You keep hearing about this whole calling fatigue. I don't know if you guys get this, but we do video calls all day long, every day. And it can get a little tiring after a while. You just kind of get worn out. So better quality images, those types of things really help. Focusing on just the area that you want to focus on helps. Technology that companies like Zoom are making, where you've got virtual backgrounds, all those different things help in that video fatigue. And then the app compatibility, incompatibility, right? Our devices just need to plug and play and work. Then, oh yeah, I look terrible on video, Erica. You look great. You should be on video right now. I'm just saying. But the whole I look terrible on video, right? If you've got the right devices, they can enhance how you look and everything. On the cash flow, it's revenue lost during the pandemic. It's when are we going to get back to the normal after the new normal? What's going to happen with the second or third wave of the pandemic? I've got mounting debt and all those types of things. On the home networks, inadequate bandwidth. I've got 4 kids, and when I look on my router list, I've got like 60 devices connected. I'm like, how does that even happen? It's like they're like little rabbits multiplying all these devices that I have on my home network. And sure enough, I'll hear the sounds of, like, my wife, who's using the internet? We have a 100 meg connection, and we're still like struggling with the Wi-Fi bandwidth. Firewall settings, right? SIP ALG and what's turned off and on and what's blocking this or that and all that kind of stuff. What about duplicate IPs and things like that? How do you fix those kind of issues? And then the usage and so on. So what we're doing from a solution standpoint on the noise side is, hey, we've got stuff, cash flow, we've got stuff, network, we've got stuff. So what are they? It's the headsets, speaker phones, desktop phones, cameras. I don't know if you guys know this, the number one thing that I hear about, I don't want to sell headsets. So this is directed to all SkySwitch resellers. The number one thing I hear is, I don't want to get in the headset business. I just don't want to support headsets. Newsflash, we take your end customer calls. So you can actually sell a Poly headset to your end customer. And when they have an issue with their headset, they call us. You just give them our phone number, they call us, and we actually take that tech support call, including warranties. So we'll actually replace a warranted headset on your behalf.
Darren, what are some of the most common problems with headsets that are causing resellers to not want to deal with it?
The main thing that I see, Andy, is we're in a software business. The margins are really good with the software business that we do, right? When I say we, I mean us collectively, right? Cloud communications is kind of a software entity, and that has a good margin. Hardware sales historically don't provide a lot of margin. It's not like the old days, or like if you're an e-tailer and you want to make 3 points on a phone or a headset, okay, you can do that because you're not really offering any other value-added services. For resellers, what I hear is, man, there's just not enough money in it for me to take that headache phone call. That's really what it boils down to, is I don't make enough money to deal with this CRAP, right? That's the number one thing I hear. Other than that, the actual problems that you're going to get are, hey, it's not working with this app, or it sounds crackly, or, you know, you're going to get all sorts of just crazy. Just think of all the things that you may have had with your USB headsets or wired headsets in the past. And now the service provider's thinking, do I really want that phone call? And that's where we come in and we say, you know what, don't take it. Troubleshoot all the way down to the phone, all the way down to your soft client, make sure that that's part's working, and then just say, look, it looks like it's got to be the headset, call Poly, and we'll take the call from there. I think it's a really good differentiator and important thing to call out for the resellers on the call.
No, that's a really good differentiator. The usual experiential problem that I've seen it, and I've been running conference calls for years, people don't understand their settings between the application and the system. Yeah. And a lot of times, especially Windows devices are notorious for this, more so than Macs, but with WebRTC, we're seeing it pop up. If you don't align device with device port, you know, it's basically a port, it's a virtual port or a logical port. The person may be sending the audio to where they were listening to their music, which is their speakers, and their microphone isn't turned on inside the application, but it wouldn't matter because the system is pointing to something else, an application that you used to use. And, you know, Skype was a big problem in that area, you know, growing up with Skype. And I think a lot of people just give up, and because there's no remote access to the person's computer, there's, you know, that's usually a big problem, or mobile phone or tablet. So I was just wondering where the body of complaints comes from, separating the money issue. You know, show me the money. We were talking about Terry McGuire earlier, show me the money.
You show me, yeah, exactly.
It's your customer. At the end of the day, you know, Corey supports a lot of things and his team that aren't purchased to a SkySwitch store because you're our customer resellers, because it's their customer, and then we refer you up to Poly if we can't solve it. But Darren, is there any one consistent problem that pops up that rears its ugly head up to your level or up to Skip's level, you know, beyond Corey?
You know, most of it's the ID10 tier, right? It's what you're saying. It's I don't realize that my mic is not set for this application. Those are a lot of the problems. And then when you actually get down to, no, hey, Poly has a problem, a lot of times it could be interoperability with a particular app or a particular app update. So we've got engineers that are constantly working on making sure that, you know what, hey, if I hit the mute button on my headset right now, that it actually tells the app that I'm on mute, instead of just being a local mute, so that I can actually see on screen that I'm on mute. And then we do things like in the headset, if I start to speak while I'm on mute, it'll say that I'm on mute, so that I don't have to have you tell me that I'm on mute. Hey, Darren, I don't hear you, you're on mute. And I've already clicked the button. But I really I think that's it. It's a lot of times it's user error. And some of that comes with the familiarity of having different devices. And then it comes down to just compatibility issues between different pieces of software. The good news is we've got tons of teams working on all the main platforms and compatibility with them.
Are the devices getting smarter, in your opinion, that can figure more things out? I mean, Poly supports Teams, it supports Zoom, it supports other leading conference platforms. You know, we were able to integrate with ReachUC, our soft phone. Are the devices, like I'm using the VoxBox right now?
Yep.
And the 6200 or 7200, the top of the line, the square one, the Callisto. And it just works, you know, Bluetooth connected or USB connected. Are the devices in your mind getting smarter and able to figure out more of the configurations as we move from Bluetooth 2.0 to the next version to the next version?
100%. I mean, right now on this particular headset, if I'm not on a call and I hit a button, it'll launch my Alexa app. And so I can say things to Alexa just by clicking a button on my headset, and it'll talk to my phone. Just things like that, and Teams integrations and Zoom integrations and all of those. And those are things that we're constantly trying to add on. And then we're not going to cover this today, but the things we're doing for noise cancellation are just off the charts amazing. There's a demo for this one that I'm wearing right now. It's the Voyager 5200. And in that YouTube demo, you see these, it's all over the world. You see these people in really crazy, noisy situations. And you like have a close-up shot of them talking, you hear them perfectly. And then they pan out with a far shot and you see the situation they're in. They're inside of a mill or a warehouse and there's all sorts of, things going on, or they're in a bar, in a noisy bar scene and all that stuff. So the things we're doing, this actually has 4 microphones. One of them is for wind noise. So even if I'm outside and there's wind blowing, it'll actually cancel out the wind noise. And another one's for the isolation. So all sorts of really cool technology that's being shoved into this tiny form factor. So it's pretty amazing.
Cool. What about on the money side?
On the money side, I mean, I'd say that the value keeps going up and up. The price for what you get is pretty powerful. We've got, even on our sort of entry level USB corded headsets, for about $50, you get unbelievable noise cancellation and great stereo sound. So like the Blackwire 3320 or 3325, great headset. And you just plug it in and it works. It's unbelievable how good that thing is.
Cool. And then what about just in general, when you think about the whole network issue? When we were talking leading up to the webinar today, you said home network. I said all networks have problems. And everybody is challenged by the issue of underpowered. You talk about having 100 megabits. I've got a gigabit. And I've been so happy, but I called one of our SkySwitch resellers here in town. He referred me to an MSP who does nothing but home networking. And they wired my house so I can go to different places in the house and know that I've got really solid coverage because the house wasn't pre-wired. And I'm running 900, 1,000, sometimes over 1.1 wherever I am. And it's really helpful when you're doing what we're doing, video conferencing.
Yeah.
And especially when you have, like, I've got 30 devices connected between all my Echoes and Googles and Google Nest and so forth. What about the network, and what are you able to do to help, or what are your words of encouragement around the idea of the business at home network versus home networking? Because they're really different.
Yeah, so we're going to get there in just a second, but at the highest level, what we're doing is we're giving you visibility by accessing our devices. So if I've got a VVX 350 sitting on a desktop at home, I've got a network probe, essentially. And so this network probe can give me visibility to the local area network. So that's kind of at the highest level. Before I get there, though, before I show you the money, let me wrap up on this stuff. The point of today really is to focus on the networks, but I didn't want to miss an opportunity to talk about the hardware, because we are really a hardware company. And then also on the device as a service, I want you guys to know that all of our devices you can get as a service. And so if I were to buy a $100 phone, I could actually rent that for $3 a month instead of buying it. So if that's interesting to you, if that or some of our leasing options, full coverage warranties, so you don't have to worry about it. You basically set something out there, you're paying a monthly service for it, and if anything goes wrong, another one's on the way. If the customer cancels, you send the unit back. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the devices and the as a service. On the network side, to your point, our device management is where we're going here. And the device management gives us a bunch of tools that actually goes in and leverages the fact that I've got a really powerful little computer sitting here on the desk. And what can I do with that? We've also got some analytics so we can look at what is the MOS score of a call. And ultimately, this is the focus. So show me the money. PDMS-SP, what is it? Poly Device Management Service. It's a mouthful. The SP is service provider. But it's a cloud software that gives you access through a firewall. So that's a home firewall, a business firewall, and it's going to give you that key metrics about what's going on in the local area network and what's going on the phone. And then it's going to give you some testing tools. Cost, drum roll, ready? 0. We don't charge for this service. And I think this is the big aha moment that I hope everybody on this call realizes is this is a free service from Poly. The only gotcha, if there was a gotcha, is that it works with Poly devices. So obviously we're trying to increase the value of our devices by giving you access to this service, but we're trying to make you more successful using Poly. So what is it? It's a device management service. It's centrally managed, so you don't have to install a server. You don't have to do anything except log into a portal. It's going to give you that remote packet capture, call analytics, what's going on in the call. It's going to give you the access to remote reboot. I mean, how many times, Corey, have you asked a customer, hey, could you go ahead and reboot that phone for me?
Step one. In a lot of
Step
cases.
one, right? Totally, totally. And just imagine now, you don't even have to do that. They don't have to be there. You don't have to wait for them. You just click a button and whoop, phone reboots. Live config updates. You know that if you just changed one parameter, you'd be set. Well, now you'll be able to put in the XML parameter, click apply, and the phone now has the config. API access. So some of you, if you wanted to develop APIs, you could actually go into developing your own APIs to not even log into our portal, but remotely manage it through a single pane of glass. And then zero-touch provisioning. Big news flash. We used to have 2 zero-touch provisioning platforms. There was the old legacy Polycom one, and that managed all of the devices. So if you pulled a Polycom phone out of the box and plugged it in, and you had access to our zero-touch provisioning, when that phone booted up, it automatically redirected to the Sky Switch or whatever server you told it to, and bam, it's up. Now what we're doing is everything resides in our PDMS system. So all of our zero-touch provisioning, as well as all these tools, all reside in the single system. Here's what it looks like. So today, you manage your phone configurations through the SkySwitch platform. Pretty straightforward, right? Everything that you want those phones to do happens in the SkySwitch platform. We're not changing any of that. What we're trying to do is augment. And so what that looks like is like this. We come alongside SkySwitch. We don't change anything that you've got going on today. We simply add a little bit of XML to telephone to also register to Poly's device management. Now, when you log into our cloud portal, you now have access to that phone, because here's what's happening. The phone is reaching out to our cloud over HTTPS. So it's the same port that you're going to use to surf to your bank network, right? And open up your bank account. It's the same port. So the firewall is going to allow that call from the phone out on HTTPS. That's the reason we're so successful in being able to traverse firewall, because the phone's already opened up the port. Then it's going to encrypt the tunnel to make sure that it's not hackable. And now you've essentially, through our portal, have access directly to the phone. And all of the bells and whistles that are in the phone are now accessible to you through the remote cloud portal. So any questions? I want to kind of let that sink in, or Corey, any thoughts that are going through your mind?
Throw in how valuable both remote PCAP and remote syslogging is. I personally, and a lot of my team and a lot of you guys, kind of live inside of logging and remote packet captures, or not remote packet captures, but packet captures. I live in Wireshark. And if you guys don't, then our support team is kind of here to help you out with those. But one of my favorite sayings is logs don't lie. That includes packet captures and logs. They're always telling you exactly what you need to see. Customers lie, end users lie, and a lot of times not on purpose, but logs always tell the truth. So so valuable to what we do in this industry as a business. Just being able to tell exactly what happened without the customer's input is extremely valuable.
Yeah, and guys, just, I want to make sure you hang in there with us. We're going to get to a live demo where we're actually going to log into this and get into a phone and show you what it looks like, just to show you how easy it is. But I just want to make sure you understand kind of how this is laid out. And this is great, right? Because anybody who's got access to your portal now has access to your phones and being able to do all these tools. So this is really powerful stuff. One quick testimonial I'll give. Right after the pandemic hit, I had a rep that we work with a lot as a knock rep, and is always very interested in the latest and greatest. So they're always pinging us. They see us at the shows and so on. And she called me up and she said, hey, this PDMS-SP just saved my bacon. We had a customer take their phone home from work. So we know that it was already up and running. We know that the phone worked, but then when they took it home, it didn't work. We didn't see it trying to register. So we're at a loss. Is it the home network that's broken? Is it the ISP that's broken? What's going on? So when we connected it to PDMS-SP, because it was already connected, what we were able to find very quickly was, oh, you know what? I can access the phone. Number one, the phone's up on the internet, because they were able to get to the phone through the internet on PDMS-SP. So phone's connected, it's got an IP address, it's reaching out to the internet, and they ran a packet capture, which showed that the device was sending its registration requests. But on her side, when they looked at the server, they weren't receiving the registration request. So in about 15 minutes, she looked at it and said, the service provider's blocking port 5060. That's got to be it. So she and the end customer got on with the service provider and said, hey, here's the situation. We've identified that you must be blocking port 5060. Service provider looked into it. Yep, we block SIP unless you specifically request it. They turned on the port. The customer was up and running. They solved that. It could have taken them hours to figure that out. But I know that there's numerous situations, right? Customer says, hey, I'm hitting transfer. And to your point, Corey, right? We're having to believe them that they're hitting transfer and the call doesn't transfer. Well, now with the remote PCAP, you can say, start PCAP. Okay, go ahead and do what you're doing. And what you see is they're hitting call park. And now your PCAP has told you they're hitting the wrong button. So regardless of what they tell you, you now know what the phone is telling you. So this is just amazing stuff on how these things work.
Darren, it's really interesting. When I moved back to the States a few years ago, and the very first thing I did was I plugged in to make some calls and it wasn't working. So I called, back then it was Time Warner, it's now Spectrum. And they were swearing, no, we're not blocking anything, but they were, their firewall was on. So when I moved recently to my new house, the first question I asked the installer from the cable company was, how do I get into the customer administration panel? And he gave me the number and I started going through it and I'm just watching his eyes pop. He's like, I've never had a customer do that. I said, well, and I just immediately turned off all the things that would block things like SIP and TLS, which is another thing they blocked. And you bring your firewall down to nothing and then everything works. And then you gradually build it back up to make sure that you protect what you need to protect. But the installer's reaction was just like chin dropping, eyes popping. He goes, never had a customer do that. He goes, I didn't even know about that. And so there's a big, what we know because we are advanced users and because we're so deep into the industry, resellers, one of the things that often happens is the ISP providing connectivity has turned things off lowest common denominator. They think everybody's going to be at risk when really it's very hard for machines these days like Macs and Chromebooks, I'm not sure about Windows devices, to be as vulnerable as they used to be. So the first thing is always check your port settings on the devices that are connecting out because 90% of the problems will go away, as Darren's customer support person found in 15 minutes.
Totally.
It's almost never SkySwitch or Poly. it's something in the middle.
I
Yep.
just want to throw a quick correction. I think you meant to say RTP instead of TLS.
No,
We're using
well,
TLS to get around those ISP blocks.
the TLS, in this case, it wasn't SkySwitch, it was 5 years ago. It was simply they were blocking TLS, and also the RTP traffic was being blocked. Everything was just turned off. I mean, basically they gave you port 80 and maybe the ports for IMAP, and anything else just didn't work. And with one stroke of a keystroke, I turned it off and poof, everything was working.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the last couple of slides I've got for you guys is which devices do these work on? And here's a quick snapshot. We're adding to this regularly, but right now it's our VVX phones, all of our ATAs, all of our Trio conference phones. We're in the process of looking at also the new CCX line of touchscreen phones that we just released. So those will be coming to a SkySwitch store near you very soon, the CCX. And Skip, any others? I know there's a lot of updates going on.
No, the CCXs work today.
Oh, great.
As well as the D230 is kind of hidden up there in the very top left, but it's kind of a joint OB device, poly device. It's running OB software, and it's very popular because it's our new DECT phone.
Excellent. And then I think that call out that you reminded me of earlier is which software version do I need to be on? So if you're running a Polycom device, you'd need to be on 5.8 or later. And all OB software devices are by default, they work on this system. So any of the ATAs, the VVX D230 DECT phone, anything that's running as its software stack, the OB stack, is going to automatically work with PDMS. So just real quickly, how easy is it to add a phone? So this is an example of what your config looks like. So literally, you would go in, the only part that's that you would modify, let's pull up my highlighter here, is this piece right here is customized to your portal. So once you get access to the portal, you'll get your own PDMS-SP code, and you would update this XML code, pop it into one phone or 1,000 phones, or Skip, like what are some of the biggest customers we have out there using this?
Well,
maybe not our names, but sizes.
Yeah, our top 5 customers, I believe 3 of our top 5 are using this for all of their phones, and there are over 100,000 phones in a couple of those accounts. They have their own space, and all of their phones are up, like I say, with over 100K phones.
Excellent. And I can't remember the latest figure. I know it went over 500,000, but it's close to 1 million, I think, as far as registered devices connected to PDMS now.
Yes. I believe it was 600 and some K last time I looked at it, but it goes up every day.
Yeah, every day we keep adding to it. We've had mass migrations too. We've had customers that have come in, they've tried it out for a few phones, going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then they go in and just drop it into the master config for all of their phones. And just like that, the next time that phone reboots, boom, they're up and running with this new connection to PDMS-SP. So what's the process? How do I get it? I just want to make sure we cover that. Number one, you become a partner. You got to be a Poly partner to have access to this. And that's not hard. You just go to partners.poly.com, you apply, you fill in an application, and in 2 days you get a terms and conditions back from our company saying accept terms and conditions. And then you'd connect with Lee or one of the folks on my team to be your Poly rep. And that's it. There's no financial requirement to become a Poly partner. We have partners that do tons of money with us, and we have partners that do 0 and buy 3 devices a year from us. So there's no financial requirement to becoming a Poly partner. Then once you're a Poly partner, you request PDMS-SP. You basically email ob.spsupport@poly.com. they're going to go back and verify that you're a partner. And if you are, you're going to get access. Then you add your devices. And the way you do that is that in PDMS-SP, I'll show you this later when we do our demo, there's a thing called Service API, and that tells you what that custom little config looks like. And so you'd get that, and then you would go ahead and get your service tag, add it to your XML script, dump it into your phones, and you're off and running. Now all your phones are connected. If you want to partner, we're going to send this out to everybody that attended today. So you'll have a copy of this as a PDF, but here's how you get hold of us, right? There's a toll-free phone number, there's an email address, and you know, please pick up the phone, email us, and we'll help you get through the whole process. We do this every single day of the week, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of partners that we love to help. So that brings us to quick summary, right? Number one, we help you with that employee satisfaction with our devices. We can help you with the cost and liquidity on converting everything from CapEx to OpEx with a device as a service. And then what we talked about today is fixing the unpredictable network, and that's with our device management service. So now we're going to switch over to live demo mode. This is where always things get dicey. So if nothing else, you can watch for the potential train wrecks that could ensue. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go to my PDMS-SP portal, and you see right there, it has its legacy. It's called ObiTalk. So anybody who knew the company ObiHi will recognize this. Polycom bought ObiHi a few years back, right before the merge with Plantronics. And so ObiHi is Polycom, Poly, we're all one big family, right? So the three companies are all one big family. So if you knew Sherman or any of the guys over at the ObiHi team, they're all with us today, and they help us develop this platform and the ATAs and all those cool things. But that's it. You come here, you click sign in, and you're in. Now Skip's going to help me kind of walk through some of this because I am not Mr. Tech guy, but I am running the controls. So things could get very dicey when he says, click on so-and-so, and I have no idea what he's talking about. But Skip, walk me through some of the stuff that you like to demo.
Well, one of the first things we'd like to look at is if you're a service provider, you might want to, in the morning when you log in, click on the snapshot item on the left-hand menu there. And what that will give you is a snapshot of every device that is registered to PDMS-SP that you can see. And as you can see here, what Darren is in a engineer's portal. So all of our technical engineers, if you see that I've got 40 phones that you can see here, and those are just the ones that you can see in my home office here because we're constantly playing with phones. These are the ones that are registered from within my group. There's 152 of them. And one thing that you might want to check first thing in the morning, perhaps, is to see how many of them are registered. So of these 152, there's only 83. Well, actually, there are 83 that are offline. So if this was a live network, you might have a bad morning because half of your devices are offline. But since these are all labs, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. But it's a handy snapshot of both the types of devices. As you see, they're segmented by color and by name at the top up there, as well as the status of SP1 refers to the first registration on the device. So it's basically line 1 on every VVX or any other device that's there.
I think this is cool too. You even get some stats on how long, right? But less than, or is it greater than 1 day and less than
From
7?
1 to 7
So
days.
yeah,
Right.
And then just 0 to 1 days. And then, you know, you can break down into these and stuff. So it's kind of cool how you can look at all these different things. So select all. But yeah, this is really helpful. Talking about the API integration, we've got a partner that actually does an API script every night and looks for devices that are offline. So they're still connected to this service, but for some reason they've lost their registration. And then they run a secondary script that goes and reboots all those phones. It's just kind of a cool way to minimize your morning routine of, oh, hey, my phone's down. Well, have you rebooted it? No. I also think it's really cool up here just seeing, well, how many VVX 450s, 350s, V230s, you see all these different devices. And by the way, there's the VVX 411, 501, 601. So if you wondered which VVXs can I connect to this, it's all VVX. And look at there, like Skip was saying earlier, the new CCX phones are connected. All right, Skip, where do we go next?
All right, so if you roll all the way to the bottom down there, it also has a list of every MAC address. So
that's
if you,
cool.
It's a quick shortcut to hop to any MAC address you might have in there, so you can do a search and find from your browser. There's also, when we go back to the main screen, you'll be able to type in any portion of a MAC address and it'll find that device immediately.
So that's kind of cool. So like I know my MAC address end because I've been playing with this, and 97A, and there's my MAC address. So that's one way to find the MAC address. Obviously, if I had 100,000 of these, this would be a pretty big list, or even 1,000. So go to manage devices next?
Yeah, go back to manage devices. You'll be able to see from the list that there are all sorts of devices here. For the top two, the first one is Darren's VVX 350, but there's an OB302 ATA right under it with Chuck Berry. He's in Denver. There are devices all over the map here. So we have engineers all over the U.S. anyway, North America, North and South America, I guess, are where all these guys are. There's a note field there. So for example, on most of the devices that I configure for my lab, I'll make sure that either I'll go in here and put a note in, or you can actually use a provisioning, one of the XML provisioning tags that you can put in the file for the phone. When it provisions, you can put a note in. So I put my name, Skip, in there. So if you type Skip there, it's going to filter immediately to any device that has my name in the note field. So we have customers, ITSP customers, that will label their end user phones with that customer's name. So if you have 7-Eleven, for example, you would tag all of those 7-Eleven phones and type it in the note, and you'll get an instant filter on those names.
Yeah, so that's super handy. And then I think you were pointing out earlier, same thing, right? If I knew that I wanted to look for my MAC address, I just type in a little bit of the MAC address and there it is. Yep. There's mine. And then so, back to Skip, I think we were going to look at one of your, what, VVX 601?
Yeah, look at that 601. It's right
I'm
here.
going to click on that. And now I'm looking at information from your phones. I'm in Dallas, you're in Atlanta, and I'm looking at information on your phone. Dangerous.
So now, the handy things you can look at are ITSP status.
Darren and Skip, real important, because what you just said, I can see anything on your portal. The resellers can only see the phones that are under their control. They're not able to see the competition or somebody in
That's right.
city. Okay, I think that's a real important, with privacy and security paramount these days.
Yeah, as a portal owner, you're defining which devices are assigned to your portal, and then you have a view to your devices only.
Okay, because that didn't come through, and what one of you just said had me going, wait a minute, I can see somebody else's.
No, we're all in the same group. For sake of time, Skip, I know we're gonna have to probably pick it up here. And so the main thing we're gonna do is kind of just drive through here and just show some stuff. The ITSP status, showing here that we've actually got a multi-line phone. It's registered to ITSP1. Quick sidebar note is you're always gonna have registration to SkySwitch, but one of the things that Poly's working towards is the ability to have multiple things going on, right? So if I needed to be registered to Zoom for some reason on line 2, that's a possibility. In the notes, this is how simple it was to change the note. And you can also do this via script as well, right? Is that right, Skip, when you upload a mass?
You can actually put it in your master template.
Gotcha.
Or in the individual template for that phone.
So you could have a customer template and have that customer's devices named a specific name. And then you can customize each individual one. You can put a specific note on it. On the troubleshooting side, this is the money shot right here, right? PCAP. Literally, hey, Skip, could you go ahead and run through that process? I click Start PCAP, click OK. And just like that, I now have, after I stop running it, I have a PCAP that I download and I open it up, and in my Wireshark is going to pop up. There's the PCAP. I didn't have to roll a truck. I didn't have to do anything. I now have access to that PCAP live that we just did. Earlier, Corey was talking about syslog. So take a look at syslog, right? I can also do my logging configuration. So what part of the log do I want to configure? I can get down very granularly and get down into every single one of these and change. So if I want to get down to SIP and say debug, I can just do debug on SIP. Once I save that and submit it, then when I go back, I can actually start the syslog, stop the syslog, and that information is going to be captured as well, right? So start syslog, click OK. It starts running the syslog. I don't know if you're going to do anything there, Skip. Maybe just pick up your phone and hit dial or something. And then as I get back into syslog,
number you have dialed.
There we go. Stop syslog, click OK. And in just a couple of seconds here, I'm going to be able to go back, and now that syslog is available. I'm able to open it up, and everything that just happened is now in here. Same thing down here for device logs, right? Just what's going on with the device. I click it, I open it. Now I have a device log telling me what's going on at the device level. Call quality is really kind of cool. I don't know if you've got this one set up. Do you, Skip, for call quality?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
so there should be some voice quality and some CDRs.
So the idea here is, as this loads, is your customer calls in and says, hey, you know, yesterday at noon, I had a call that was really horrible. And so you'll actually be able to pull, waiting for the drum roll here, pull the actual call logs, and it'll pop up here whenever it's pulled the whole list of calls. And it's going to show me what is going on. And it's also going to give me where it's pertinent, the voice quality information. So I know that this call on the 21st at 14:29 had a MOS of 4.1 with a delay of 49 milliseconds. So I can just get a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on with that particular call. So I can either agree, yep, I'm seeing your call was horrible.
Right, that in combination with RTP site gives you a full picture of, from the switch to the phone, how the call went and what 100% you can identify what is the problem in the network. Is it the ISP? Is it us?
Totally. Yeah, that's it, Corey. I mean, every troubleshooter knows that the more of the picture that I can see, the more likely I am to understand where the problem's coming from. And that's what we're trying to give you here is a representative of your company sitting on your customer's table that's going to give you information. That's the whole key here. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to point out that in the configuration, you can actually get into the local config of the device. So what I'm looking at here is the primary information. So everything from, you know, MAC address, device. If I look into network information, you know, what's its IP, what's its duplex, is it DHCP, is it static, what's the DNS that it's using, if we're having a DNS issue, all that information's there, down to service information. What's it registered to? What's the actual registration server? What's the actual registration username and its status? I mean, there's so much information that you get here. And then if you even go down into config files, I'm not sure how long this could take a little while to load, because what it's going to do is it's going to pull all of the configuration, any of the custom configurations that have been done. And
Right. So in the background here, it's using our REST API to actually issue a REST command against the phone. So we published that REST API as well. So if you want to write custom scripts or integrate the information that's available via PDMS-SP into one of your own systems, that's been done by other customers, you can get pretty slick with it if you know how to do REST and Postman type commands.
I'm going to show off my nerdiness. I only know one thing, and it's the acoustic fence. So if you wanted to see if acoustic fence is enabled, that's voice.ns.hd, and bam, one means it's enabled. So, you know, you're able to look at these and figure out, are they enabled? And I just did a quick find using Chrome's find. But hopefully, guys, you know, this has been, you know, just a real quick taste of what it is you can do. And I think that's the key that we were hoping for today, is tell you about it, show you how you can get it, and show you how easy it is. I don't live and breathe in this stuff, but I can get around in it and I can figure stuff out. I update things in my phone and do stuff with it. So it's a really powerful tool that costs zero and is available to you. All you've got to do is become a partner, and you have access to this.
Sharon, you want to bring up the how people can get in touch with you guys slide again? Just
yes, sir.
A lot of post questions, and then we're going to go to Q&A, and then we're going to talk about the great Poly prizes that Poly has been kind enough to provide today. And Erica will be pulling names out of the hat, and we will be awarding prizes. Remember, you have a much higher chance if you've asked a question. So today, first question comes from Nathan Parks. He said, one of the issues we have had with the Poly portal is when we enter the organization info, it's removed when the phone is rebooted. Is there a fix for this? Skip, that's probably best handled by you.
I think you're on mute, buddy. You checking it out?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I am on mute, but I was only saying, the organization info, I think we ran into some of that today. It depends on exactly how that is being put in. The things that stick are actually go into the configuration files. Some things that you do as overrides are very temporary. They only last until the phone is rebooted. So we'd have to look at an individual case as to exactly what's being changed and how it's being changed. But that's
a couple ways we could get into that. One is, you know, you can reach out to us if you're a Poly partner. Even if you're not, you've got our contact info on the screen. Reach out to us and we can help you solve that. I know Corey's very familiar with the system, and between both of us,